Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Monday, October 24th. Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, we're ready to break it down here on a Monday. Brand new week. Looking forward to it here. And another great week of NHL games. Just want to mention a couple things. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. I want to bring that up because I posted my weekly power ratings there this morning. We've got lots of great content there. Of course, the Chris Otto totals charts, which are absolutely outstanding. Great resource there. We've got Alex P. Smith goaltender rankings, depth charts, his power ratings as well. Great stuff there at patreon.com/Ice Guys. You'll find our daily Ice Guys show betting card there each and every day as well. So tons of great content. We'll be doing some special Patreon subscriber only content starting this week. And then next week, we'll do some more. We've got good stuff planned with that. So make sure you check out patreon.com/Ice Guys. And it's only $10 a month for that. And just briefly about the power ratings, I wanted to mention them, and then we'll get right into today's card. I had to make some adjustments, some decent adjustments this week with certain teams. I had to drop Vancouver significantly with what we've seen from the Canucks. I had to drop Anaheim. Pained me to do it. Team that I really liked coming into the season, but they fell a decent amount in the power ratings. And and I had to downgrade Edmonton just a little bit, with the kind of struggles they've had so far this season. And in terms of teams moving up the power ratings, we've had to give Boston a little credit for the start they've had this season, with all the people that were out of the lineup. And more than any team in terms of upgrades, the Buffalo Sabres. We had to upgrade them after what they accomplished. You're not supposed to, even the best teams in the NHL are not typically supposed to go to Western Canada and sweep all 3 games of that road trip. Usually even the best teams in the NHL, they're going to stumble. They're going to lose one of those games against Edmonton or Calgary or Vancouver. Just like if you go through that California road swing, I don't care how good I don't give two shits how good or bad your team is. But, you're supposed to not get through LA, San Jose, and Anaheim winning all 3 games. It's tough travel. Usually you play a back-to-back at least once during that trip. But Buffalo managed to do that. And I had to put them all the way up to 16. Like, this is a team that's been in the 20s, obviously, to start the year because we knew they'd be better, but we didn't think they'd be ready to be, middle of the pack. And they're middle of the pack now in my power ratings. That's how good of a start they've had. To beat Edmonton and then really hand Calgary their only loss so far this year in impressive fashion, and then show no letdown or let up at all against Vancouver on Saturday. They deserved a lot of credit for what they did on that road trip. So I had to upgrade them quite a bit. So you can check all that out, my power ratings on the Patreon page. And certainly Buffalo, Alex, to me, there's no team that moved up my power ratings more from last week to this week than the Sabres.
Yeah, same here. I posted mine up on Sunday after the show, and like I said, we had to make adjustments, and obviously was a lot more downgrades, I think, on mine than upgrades. I didn't have Buffalo move up too far in my rankings, but definitely had to shift some teams down. Vancouver being probably the most noticeable drop off in mine, but Buffalo, I mean, they're rolling hot right now, and we're getting the value. I thought they were going to be playing this kind of hockey in January, February. I thought they were going to be that team that would start being sneaky dogs, and we'd actually be able to get some even bigger value, plus 130, plus 140, plus 145 range after them losing a little bit in the first half. But they're jumping off of the page right now, playing decent hockey, and we're still getting some good prices, but it's just a matter of time. We're going to have to capitalize on these plus 110s, plus 120s, because sooner or later they keep winning these games. They're going to start flipping and becoming the favorite. So, that's the thing about having these power rankings, and the thing about, the beginning of the season, making those adjustments and looking and seeing, which teams are playing at a peak we expected later and they're doing earlier, which teams are, playing well now, but we're expecting them to fall off: Philadelphia, Chicago, San Jose. And which teams are going to rise, like Tampa Bay and Colorado. So that's the whole thing. We're just it's not gospel. We use our power rankings, but we also add in other factors, and there's many other factors that lead to us having our power rankings being what they are. But you still have to adapt them on a daily and weekly basis.
There's going to be some big shifts. There's going to be some small shifts, and then there's going to be times when, even after a week, maybe a team plays well, but you don't upgrade them much at all because of the situational factors. What if they played a team that was bad and injury riddled, and they won those games against a lot of those teams for a week during the season? Yeah, you don't upgrade them as much. So it's all, situational based, team by team, and each individual situation based on their results that given week. So fun to adjust those throughout the course of the season. No question about that. All right, let's get to the Monday card. We got 6 games. We'll start with Washington, New Jersey. The Devils -130 home favorite, 6.5 the total. In this game, I like the Devils here a little bit, -130 in this game. I've been on the fade Washington bandwagon. Some games it's worked out, some it has not. But lately, it's been a situation where with Washington, we've taken our shot with them. The Vancouver game was unfortunate because the Canucks. Let's not forget they were up 4-2 against Washington, and then the Capitals came back to win 6-4. Washington lost 5-2 against Ottawa, and another game where if you watch that LA game, and I was on the Kings Saturday in that game, they just hit a wall physically. I mean, it's almost like they were stuck in mud in the third period at the end of that long road trip, and a 2-0 lead evaporated for the LA Kings, and the Caps ended up winning that game by a score of 4-3. But I still have worries about the way this team's overall game is trending, and they've taken advantage of some teams kind of collapsing, in the third period for each of their last 2 victories, honestly. And then their only other win was against Montreal, which has played well at home, competitive at home, but they have not played as well on the road. So, and the Devils, after a slow start, are starting to get their game going again. Now, you could say haven't beaten great competition, which I'll give you. I'll absolutely give you that. I won't debate that or disagree. Playing Anaheim, the Islanders, and the Sharks for their last 3 victories, but I still like the way the team is trending. Charlie Lindgren's going to have to show me again he can play like he did in his first start against Toronto, where he played very well. Even though the Leafs won that game over to the Capitals, he played well. I got to see him play well again in net here tonight for the Capitals before I'm convinced. So I like New Jersey here. Do I love the price? It's not the best, but I'll lay a $1.30. I probably wouldn't lay a lot more than that, but I am on New Jersey here. Alex, what do you think? Caps Devils?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I grabbed it at -$1.20 this morning, and I kind of had a hunch that Lindgren would get the start, and that that's what I love about, like I said, we finally get into a rhythm with the schedule. We get to see these 3 and 4 games, 4 and 5. We get to see these spots, and we get to kind of feel where the goaltenders are going to get their start. So that's why it's not always. We still want to wait for confirmations, of course, most of the time, but it's more important to wait for confirmations now as opposed to where a month from now, if I see a line and I have a good feel of who's going to be in net, I'll hit it a day early, or that morning of. I won't wait until the confirmations in the afternoon. So that's the thing that we're looking at here. You kind of. I'm not saying you're getting priced out at $1.30. Like I said, I'm glad I got it at a better price, but 130 is probably the cutoff here, because I'm still not sold on New Jersey being a top tier team just yet. Washington, I mean, like I said, that's one of the other teams I've downgraded in my power rankings. They look so bad in open ice, and their passing still is sloppy at times. Their shot selection isn't as high of a quality. So those are things that stick with me long term. As we talk about with our power rankings, those things aren't going to change in 2, 3, 4 games. It seems like, and against the New Jersey team. And Blackwood, like I said, he's one of those goalies that I think will have a bounce back of a year compared to the last couple of years. Some solid numbers as of now: 3-1-0, the 2.02 goals against, and a save percentage of 90. If he can keep that pace, then Jersey should do all right. But in this spot here, I think this is a good spot here for the Devils to get a win here at home. Finally kind of righting the ship after a very slow start.
All right, good stuff there. Dallas and Ottawa now next up. Ottawa -115, home favorites. 6.5 is now the total, although this did open at 6 initially. It's gone up to 6.5, and a response to the decision in goal from Peter DeBoer to give Scott Wedgwood the start tonight in net for the Dallas Stars. And what's the difference to you, Alex, between Wedgwood and Ottinger? I'd assume, and this is not a knock against Wedgwood, but we're talking about a guy in Jake Ottinger that last year was terrific in the playoffs. He's the reason that got to a Game 7 in overtime against Calgary. He's had a strong start to this year. There's probably a decent gap, at least, between the two.
Yeah, so the average gap in my rankings between starter and backup is usually a 15-cent move. For Ottinger to Wedgwood, it's 25 cents. And that's saying with Wedgwood playing well. If he's just mediocre or average, that's probably a 30-cent difference to me. And Jake Ottinger, I have him ranked as one of my higher goalies. I haven't done a comprehensive list of top 10 overall, but if I were, Jake Ottinger's in my top 5 for sure. So that makes a huge difference in this line, in this number. That's why it's at a pick and range.
Yeah, no question about that. It's kind of what I figured. And you're right. You've got Wedgwood who is so far this season, you look at the numbers involving him. The game against Toronto, even though, again, fell short in that game, he played pretty well for the Stars in that game. 3 goals on 43 shots he faced. Only gave up 3 goals in that 3-2 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, again, I'm with Ottawa right now. It's Ottawa money line for me. It's Ottawa team total over 3.5 for me. Even against a good, look, Dallas has been a pretty good defensive team this year, but you're going to give a 3.5 at around a plus 130 or so for the Senators team total over 3.5. That's good value. They've been scoring goals in bunches at home. They've had no problem getting their offense going at home this year. And they're also 3-0 at home against Boston, Washington, Arizona, 7, 5, and 6 goals scored by the Ottawa Senators in those 3 home games. And the money's come in on Ottawa. I agree with it. I've been saying all along that when the Senators are at home, I've cashed with them against I laid off against Arizona, but I did take the over in that game on Saturday with Ottawa, Arizona. So really, I'm 3-0 with wagers. I haven't, put it this way, I haven't lost a wager with an Ottawa Senators home game yet this year. I swept the board with the Boston game. I had Ottawa team total over and full game over for the Boston game. Same thing with the Washington game. I had an Ottawa money line, team total over split, and the full game over. And then Ottawa, Arizona, I just had the full game over 6.5. And so I'm like batting like I'm like 7-0 now with Ottawa home games in terms of the betting record. So I'm probably going to come back to the same bet here tonight. Ottawa team total over, Ottawa money line, and a full game over 6.5. I already bet it when it was 6. I'd still recommend it at 6.5 though. The current number. We might actually see, hasn't been confirmed yet. DJ Smith said he wanted to give Magnus Hellberg a start here at some point, and he is the backup to Anton Forsberg. And you talk about differences. Forsberg's been pretty solid this year. Magnus Hellberg is nothing but a 31-year-old journeyman. You know, he's been around for many years. He was in the Nashville organization. He was in the Rangers organization for a few years. He was with Detroit last year, and he actually got a start with Detroit, just one game played last year, and only a .870 save percentage, 3 goals against average. So, you know, you do get concerned here about his ability here tonight in net against a Dallas team that we found out. Look, offensively, they've got Pavelski going at a great clip early in the season. Jason Robertson's dangerous. Rupe Hintz, you know, if Sagan and Ben can become more of a consistent factor, they can score goals. And we've seen Dallas early in the year, last 4 games, they've scored 4 goals or more in 3 of the last 4. So I think that favors the over as well. Again, we're not confirmed that Hellberg is in net, but Forsberg, they do say he's a little bit banged up, and that's why he's a question mark for tonight. So it could be Magnus Hellberg, and that's another reason probably why we've seen some money come in on the over tonight. Alex, what do you think, Dallas, Ottawa?
Yeah, I'm right there with you with that Ottawa team total over and getting that at a plus price 3.5. I think their offense is going to carry them. And like you said, this is definitely one of those spots where, especially if Dallas giving their guy back up, Ottawa might run and do the same. And the drop off there, I have in my rankings 15-cent drop, but that could change. And this would be a game to change it. If Hellberg gets the start and he doesn't fare well, that might be flipped to a 20-cent move, because we're seeing Forsberg actually play well. I mean, you look at his quality start numbers going back to last year. He's actually, I mean, he's just been with a bad team, but he's done well on his own. He's capable of. He's right at that cusp of capable of stealing you a game, but he can always keep you in a game. He's slightly above average in my book, where Hellberg, he's just basically kind of a placeholder, your typical third string, run-of-the-mill guy, great AHL guy, but hasn't been able to translate that success over to the step above. So this would definitely be Ottawa team total over. Don't want anything to do with the money line. And we talked about this in a couple shows ago about how looking at these team total overs, sometimes we talk about it as a better way to get value on a favorite that's a bit too high. Sometimes it's just a better way of getting a value and not have to worry about the winner or lose at the end of the game. They get 4 goals and then they lose 6-4. We still cash the ticket.
Shane Pinto, my friends, get on these props for that guy. He's undervalued right now. He's not talked about as much for the Senators because you got Tkachuk, Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, Brassard, DeBrincat. He's only playing on the third line, but he is being an offensive dynamo right now for the Senators. 4-game goal streak, 4 straight games with a goal, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points this season for the 21-year-old third-line center. of the Ottawa Senators. So Shane Pinto right now, that's your prop that I'm targeting tonight for the Senators in this game. No question about that.
One quick thing too with this game, and I mentioned it in the chat, but I'll mention it on here too as well. I'm liking the first period over live tonight, and obviously we'll be doing a lot more of these tomorrow with the live betcast going. But this is one of those games where I have first period over. It's 165 right now. I want no part of that. But if this drops down to 120, 125 range, or like about maybe say 3 or 4 minutes into the contest, I'll be firing on the first period over for sure. So follow me on Twitter, AXMA Sports. I'll try to tweet that out while I play that live if we get that opportunity.
All right, there we go. So looking at a live over. Yeah, there is something going on with Forsberg. Someone in the chat said that he's fine. He left the morning skate this morning. He was talking to the goalie coach, then he left the ice. There's definitely something injury related bothering him. They haven't disclosed what it is, but they did say that, it's left his availability up in the air for tonight. So that's why there's a possibility we see Magnus Hellberg make his debut tonight for the Senators. All right, St. Louis, Winnipeg. Winnipeg minus 115, home favorite, 6 the total. Spot-wise, I like this for the Jets, but I don't know if I want to step in front of St. Louis. They're playing good. They're 3-0 to start the year. That was an incredibly impressive performance against Edmonton. It's tough to, shut out the Edmonton Oilers on home ice. They managed to do that, and they held the Oilers to just 23 shots. It was a really good defensive game for a team that, we've talked about on this show the last year or two. We don't think this team's nearly been as shut down or as good in their own end. But boy, they turned back the clock and they brought one of their better defensive games against Edmonton. Very impressive. Binnington was sharp. He was seeing the puck, square to the shooter, good rebound control, just following the puck very well. Aggressive, came out of the blue paint, out of the crease to cut down angles on some of these high-powered Oilers forwards. It was a really nice performance overall from Binnington as well in net. For the St. Louis Blues. We'll see if they can keep it going, this strong 3-0 start to the year. Edmonton's not had the start they hoped for, or Winnipeg, I should say, after that great first win against the New York Rangers at home. They've lost 3 of 4 since then. That was a tough spot for the Winnipeg Jets off the road trip. Back home against Toronto, they lose 4-1. So I think they'll be sharper. I think they'll be better here tonight in this game. And when you look at the matchup here, Thomas Greiss in net for the Blues is confirmed to be the goaltender. And he's had a nice career. All right. San Jose, Coyotes, Pittsburgh for a bit, a lot of years with the Islanders, a couple of years with Detroit. But we've seen his goals against average increase year by year the last couple. Last year, it was a career worst, 3.66 goals against average, .891 save percentage for Thomas Greiss. This is not exactly a goalie I'm fully trusting here. I like a Jet team total in this game is what I'm going to go with, because I don't want to really go against St. Louis in terms of winning the hockey game. They've won 3 in a row, but I do think the Jets are going to potentially put some pucks in here. I'm not a big fan of Thomas Greiss and the way he played last year at all for the Detroit Red Wings. And this Winnipeg team is, they said the right things, that hey, we just got to be a little bit better with the puck. I thought they, what's that term? They banged around the puck Saturday night. They just weren't making crisp plays against that Toronto team on Saturday night. I think there's a chance we see better, crisper, cleaner execution and playmaking with the puck on their stick tonight. And again, that's a goalie that's got to show me he can have a better season than he had last year against as a member of the Detroit Red Wings. So you can get the Jets team total over 3.5 at a very healthy plus 125, plus 130. I think that's a very good price. That's the way I'm going to target this game. What do you think here, Alex? Blues and Jets.
Yeah, this is one I'm going to completely pass away from. And I get it. Thomas Greiss, not that great of a goalie. He's definitely had a drop-off, long veteran career, 13 seasons. When you look at his history, 6-2-1 against Winnipeg with a 2.10 goals against, the .924 save percentage. So for what that's worth, he has played well against that team. And obviously from just a pure talent angle, St. Louis, in my opinion, is way better than Winnipeg. But this just feels like it could be one of those flat spot nights for St. Louis. If Winnipeg can be jazzed up, and somebody mentioned in the chat about St. Louis, yes, they've started off slow in some first period. So if the Jets can get maybe I'd look at Jets first goal if I had to play something like that. Maybe that's the kind of angle I would be looking at, but nothing on a full side. Total slight lean to the over if Winnipeg can get the offense rolling. Grice isn't as sharp, but we know St. Louis can kind of counter back with some goals as well. So this is kind of a watch and learn game for me, but I definitely see a couple of angles that wouldn't be terrible bets tonight. Like I said, team total over with Winnipeg if they can find a way to get them past Grice and maybe Jets to score first. They can kind of dictate the pace of the game.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Should be an interesting one. And this next game should be very interesting as well. Pittsburgh Penguins, Edmonton Oilers. Arguably the game. It probably is the game of the night if you ask me. Oilers minus 120, home favorite, 6.5 the total. And already I'm hearing this shit today on television, on Sportsnet here. It drives me nuts every time we get these kind of games. Oh, can't wait to see another McDavid versus Crosby. Oh, every time I hear this. It's a team sport, folks. Pittsburgh versus Edmonton. It's the Penguins versus the Oilers. Holy shit, we got to put up with this every time. It's McDavid versus Crosby, or it's Crosby versus Ovechkin. We hear that instead of, it's Pittsburgh versus Washington. We have to remember it's a team sport here with these teams. But again, they're just banging us over the head with this McDavid versus Crosby nonsense. Stop with the nonsense, all right? It's team sport. Penguins versus Oilers, as far as I'm concerned. And I'll tell you what, I would have thought these records might be reversed coming into the season, that maybe Edmonton would be 4-0-1, Pittsburgh would be 2-3. But instead, it's Pittsburgh 4-0-1 and Edmonton 2-3 to start the year. I like Edmonton here. I do. And I'll say why, even though they're struggling a little bit. Edmonton, the last time they were in this spot, they were, people were questioning them. They were coming off a loss, a game where they didn't get much going, and they played Carolina, and they came out strong. They got the early lead against Carolina. Carolina kept pushing back and coming back on Edmonton, but Edmonton kept answering every time Carolina scored, and Edmonton got the win against Carolina, laying just a short number at home, just like they are here. And I think you're going to see Edmonton respond here as well tonight in this game. I think it's a nice short price for the Oilers here. And as much as Pittsburgh's had this nice start, 4-0-1, like I said, you played the Arizona Coyotes at home. You got Tampa Bay on a back-to-back situation on the road. You lost on the road to Montreal. You got LA in a back-to-back situation. I mean, you talk about advantageous situations and spots. Pittsburgh's basically, it's been good spot Pittsburgh versus bad spot opponent for a lot of their games this year. And that's not to take away from what they've done completely. It's been a great start. They've certainly had no issues offensively. Not at all. They've scored 6, 6, 6, 6 in 4 of their 5 games this season. They scored 6 against Arizona, Tampa, LA, Columbus in a game where they fell behind 2-0 and they came back and they won 6-3. So I think you're going to see Pittsburgh certainly got it going in the offensive end right now. Crosby has had a nice start. I think Danton Heinen props, you got to keep going with that. He had 2 goals against Columbus, and he's being a reward, or I should say Mike Sullivan is being rewarded by Danton Heinen for putting him on the top line because he has played very well with Crosby and with Raquel. Zucker, Malkin, and Rust on the second line as well has been pretty solid for Pittsburgh. And I think it's going to be kind of like the Carolina game. I also like over 6.5 in this game. You get Edmonton off a low-scoring, tight checking game. I think we kind of go back the other way here in this game, kind of like the Carolina game where that ended up, 6-4 in favor of Edmonton. We've seen the Penguins go over the total in 4 of their 5 games. Edmonton, they had an under against Buffalo. It went over the total the next game against Carolina. So that's kind of what you sometimes get with the Oilers when they play a game that's a little tighter checking and a game where their offense doesn't get going nearly as much. They seem to bounce back, and the next game seems to go over the total. So that's been a pattern that dates back to last year, I find, with a lot of Edmonton Oilers games. So I'm going to go Oilers money line here, minus 120 and over 6.5. And Danton Heinen props for the Oilers, or for the Penguins rather, probably come back to the well with that. It came through for me against Columbus. And for Edmonton, in terms of player props, there are a couple that stand out. They've moved Yamamoto to the top line with McDavid and Kane. And as you would expect, McDavid and Kane, their goal score and points props are worse than they are for Yamamoto, even though Yamamoto's up on that line. So Yamamoto, to me, is the value in terms of Oiler player prop tonight. Alex, Penguins, Oilers.
Yeah, I like this first period over, but I want to get a 2 at a plus price. We're already seeing some of those 2s move up into the $5, $10 range. You have the layer price. Obviously, you don't want anything to do with a 1.5 at minus $1.90. So look for it, shop for a 2 at a plus price, even money or better. I think we're going to see this be a kind of frenetic pace because you saw Edmonton off a shutout. They only got shut out twice last year in the regular season and twice in the playoffs. This is a team you don't really get to hold down too often offensively. And while Pittsburgh, they said their offense has been rocking and rolling, I think the defense still could have some gaps and some lapses against this Edmonton team. We'll really get to see how good this Penguin offense is because can they keep up with the same pace that Edmonton brings? You know Edmonton's going to skate circles around you when they get into that high transition game. But the Penguins, you know, they are an older bunch, and we've seen them score well, but that's mostly because they're passing the puck cleanly. Their shot selection is on point. But can they keep up foot speed-wise? That remains to be seen. So I want to see the first period over. Looking for a 2 at a plus price, so anything even money or better.
Yeah, I think the first period over, but again, it sounds like, you're going to wait till a live opportunity arises here. And I think this is a big game. This becomes a really important game early. It's not like it's must win, and there's no must win games in October. Let me just say that right now. It's not like your season's going to end if you lose tonight if you're Edmonton, but there's a big difference between finishing off this 6-game homestand to begin the season at 2-4 and finishing it off at 3-3. You know, there's a huge difference. You'd much rather be 500 than 2-4 on this homestand, which would be very disappointing because Edmonton goes on the road for quite a while after this. Starting Wednesday night later this week in St. Louis, they play the Blues on Wednesday night. So this is the end of the homestand. They don't want to, I think, end this homestand losing 2 in a row on home ice. And like I said, I'm impressed with the Penguins, but let's pump the brakes a little bit. Arizona. Tampa Bay on a back-to-back, if LA on a back-to-back, Columbus, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a nice 4-0-1, but this is a test tonight. And I think Edmonton's bringing it tonight. So that's why I like the Oilers and I like over the total as well in this one. All right, let's go to Toronto, Vegas. Next up here on the Monday slate, we've got the Leafs slight road favorites here in the fortress of T-Mobile Arena. The total in this one currently 6.5 across the board. I've said this, I think, after the Leaf win on Saturday. It might have been on yesterday's show, I believe. But with this Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team, I find I'd rather back them on the road. You know what I mean? I think this is a team that I find they relax more on the road. They play more of a team game on the road. They play better defense on the road. They shoot the puck more on the road. I find they look for that fucking pretty passing play all the time when they're at home. It's just put the puck on net, will you please? I mean, very simple. Especially away from home. Put pucks to the net, get traffic, look for loose pucks, look for rebounds, and you're going to end up having some success. And Toronto played that way against Winnipeg. That's the kind of game that's going to get you wins on the road, and I thought they played one hell of a great road game. And when they did break down in the defensive zone, they got great goaltending from Ilya Samsonov, who now is undefeated, 4-0 as a starting goalie this year for the Leafs. So it's been very impressive to see that Leaf performance on the road on Monday night or Saturday night against Winnipeg. Samsonov back in net tonight. Logan Thompson as well for the Vegas Golden Knights confirmed as the goalie for them. Like I said, I mean, Toronto to me on the road, I find under Sheldon Keefe, even under Mike Babcock, they always seem to have these duds at home, these games where they lose to subpar competition at home, but then they go on the road trip and they play better hockey. So I don't want to go against the Leafs, but at the same point in time, Vegas, is playing at home for the second straight game. Tough loss to Colorado. Again, another opportunity for them to try to beat the Avs the other night. They fall just short in that game. I certainly think you're going to get a good effort from the Golden Knights tonight, looking to bounce back in this one. And, Toronto's actually played Vegas very well since the Golden Knights joined the league. Overall, the series history stands at 6-2 for the Toronto Maple Leafs head-to-head against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas's existence here in the NHL. It'll be interesting to see how the Leafs contain Jack Eichel, of course, who has actually gotten off to a solid start this year for them. Jonathan Marchessault is definitely feeling it right now for the Golden Knights. So if you're looking for a player prop of some kind, I'd look in his direction. He was not part of the scoring against Winnipeg Saturday, but how I think about Nick Robertson, that as long as he's going to be playing in that top 6 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're not going to get the 500, 550 steal of a price that we got that very first game he played against Dallas, but you could still get in that plus 360, plus 375 range with Nick Robertson to score a goal tonight for Toronto. So I don't mind that either here in this game. And look, as far as the total, I'm basically off the total. I think I'd actually lean under 5 straight unders for Toronto. With Bruce Cassidy here, we've seen this Vegas team end up going under in 3 of their last 5 games. Thompson in net has been steady, and Samsonov's been great, the last few starts. So I'd actually lean under a little bit with the total. What do you think here, Alex, when it comes to Leafs and Golden Knights?
Yeah, I think this is a great total to play at 6.5. And like you said, with this goalie matchup, Ilya Samsonov. And it's funny because I don't know, people just really kind of seem to have just been down on him. He had a bad year, but I just think he's still a solid goalie. And I think the change of scenery is something he needed. Now, of course, like I said, the pressure playing in Toronto, and that lends itself to, like I said, the angle of sometimes, getting a team like Toronto away from home and away from, the media, away from the fans that are always, ready to boo at a moment's notice when things don't go right. So that's always a solid spot. But I think that this is going to be kind of a spot where both teams know how good their offenses can be, the opponent's offense can be. They're going to be, and there's going to be an emphasis on being responsible defensively. And we got a matchup with 2 good goalies. So 6.5 at a plus price. I would definitely take a shot with that. But I also like Jack Eichel to score a goal here. He has scored more goals against the Toronto Maple Leafs in his entire career. Now, obviously, most of his career was with Buffalo, and that's a heated rivalry. But 14 goals in his career against that team. That's just one of those teams he kind of gets geared up for. So maybe we see that kind of translate over. He's been playing pretty well. So I'm worth taking a stab with Eichel to score a goal, and I'll go under 6.5 for the full game.
Perfect scenario for me would be Vegas actually losing tonight against Toronto, which is very possible the way the Leafs have played for years now on the road and with Samsonov in good form. And like I said, I just find they play better as a team away from, the madhouse or the circus that is Toronto and at home ice sometimes. If Toronto wins tonight, I know it's a back-to-back for Vegas. They play in San Jose tomorrow night, but there's San Jose making that first home game off that very long road trip. And what a situation that could be tomorrow night, where if you get Vegas off a loss tonight against Toronto, and then they're going to San Jose, and they'll want to bounce back big time after 2 straight losses, and they catch the San Jose team all jet-lagged and tired and back home. Wow, what a spot.
You'd have a triple scenario because with Logan Thompson going tonight, you might also possibly see Aiden Hill in that against his old team as well.
Exactly. And I wouldn't mind that, actually. I'm not the biggest fan of Aiden Hill, but he'd want to play well in that game. There's no question about that. Good point by Nick Earl that's something to look at too. When you see a guy that doesn't have the goals going in yet, and they've been off the score sheet, but you see them getting the chances, you see the expected goals numbers being okay for them. It's not bad taking rolling the dice and taking a shot at a plus 400 price like that with Nicholas Waugh for the Vegas Golden Knights to maybe find the back of the net tonight here in this game. But that'll be a good late night matchup here for sure with Toronto and Vegas. All right, we wrap it up now. Final game of this Monday NHL card: Carolina Hurricanes, Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks, who it's funny, people are starting to wonder, when are they going to win a hockey game, this group? Very disappointing, disheartening setback the other night against Buffalo. Carolina minus 150, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. At this point, until I see a victory from Vancouver, it's show me or else I bet against you. It's that simple right now with the Vancouver Canucks. I thought that you'd want to talk about why this team is just in a bad way and why they're fragile and their psyche is all fucked up. You want to know why I know that is? Because that game was 2-1. They just scored in the second period, make it 2-1. And I thought they had a great start against Buffalo. They were swarming early in the game. Craig Anderson held the fort, but they could have had a couple goals in that first period. Sure enough, Buffalo gets the power play goal from Dahlin, and then they get a second goal from Tuck after that, 2-0. And it took a while for Vancouver to get their game going again. They kind of, when you're fragile, oh, here we go again, down 2-0. But then they got that 2-1 goal, and they started to press again, and they were close to tying it. And then the third period rolls around, 2-1, a good first shift, but then all of a sudden defense gets caught, 2-on-1 rush, ends up in the back of their net. Buffalo makes it 3-1. And the moment, Alex, early in that third, Buffalo made it 3-1, the effort sagged completely. for the Vancouver Canucks. There was nothing coming from them the rest of the game. They were just totally demoralized by just giving up that 3-1 goal. And there was no response. There was no pushback. There was no, hey, there's a lot of time left to play. We can come back in this game. Fuck, every team known to man's coming back against us. Why the hell can't we come back against someone else for a change? They didn't have that mindset. It was tail between the legs mentality and see you later. We're checking out after that 3-1 goal. Bad sign, horrible sign for the Vancouver Canucks, seeing the way that game went late. And again, no pushback. And then it ended up, of course, a 5-1 loss in that game and more questions. And Jim Rutherford, I give him all the credit, the president of hockey ops for Vancouver. He was scheduled to do a friggin' hit for Hockey Night in Canada after that game ended, and he still did it, even with his team in complete shambles right now. You credit him for still honoring that commitment, but tough times right now for the Vancouver Canucks, and they're probably going to get a Carolina team that ain't going to take them lightly after losing 2 in a row against Edmonton and Calgary in the last 2 games of this Western Canadian road trip. So tough times. You're right. Demko's not been at his best. I can't put it all on Demko, but you're right. He's got to step up a little bit. I think he could play better. And certainly we know everybody in front of him can play better. We know it's a banged up Vancouver blue line as well. It's the worst thing you could have with this team struggling to keep the puck out of the net. Tucker Poolman's still on IR. Dermott's still on IR. Riley Stillman's out. Quinn Hughes was a late scratch in the game against Buffalo. He's week to week due to injury as well. It's the last thing you can afford if you're Vancouver, having Quinn Hughes out. Oliver Lawson-Tossum's a nightmare right now. I can't believe how this guy's game has faltered big time. And again, he didn't have a great game for the Canucks Saturday. Myers is back, but again, they're playing him top pair minutes. He's not a top pair defense. He's a good defenseman, but he's not a top pair defenseman. Kyle Burrows and Jack Rathbone are just young guys. And now you got a Luke Shen, Guillaume Brisebois, a third pair tonight for the Canucks. This is rough sledding for this defense as far as I'm concerned. So what I'm going to do is one of these things I talked about yesterday, where I'm going to do a team total side split here in this Carolina-Vancouver game. I'm going to go with Carolina. I think I'll do in regulation with Carolina just to get a little bit of a better price in this game. Carolina in regulation at around plus 102, plus 105. You can find that at Pinnacle. And I'm also going to go with Carolina team total over 3.5 at around minus 105, minus 110. Pretty good price on that Hurricanes team total. Again, a Vancouver team that's got no confidence. Vancouver team that defensively is riddled on the back end, on the blue line with injuries, and a Vancouver Canucks team that in every loss so far in this 0-6 start, 5 goals allowed to Buffalo, 4 allowed to Minnesota, 4 allowed to Columbus, 6 to Washington, 3 to Philadelphia, 5 to Edmonton. So there's been 1 game out of the 6 where they have given up fewer than 4 goals, and that was Philadelphia, who's no offensive juggernaut. Let's put it that way. So I like that team total as well, 3.5 for Carolina, and a split between that and the Hurricanes in regulation. And by the way, that was an ugly scene in the third period too, in terms of the fans booing mercilessly, throwing jerseys on the ice. I hate seeing that. I don't like seeing that. I understand they're pissed, but have some fucking loyalty to your team. I've said this a million times, but come on, stick with teams even when they're struggling, even when they suck, even when they're horse shit. They're your team. You stand by them through thick and thin as far as I'm concerned. If I'm a fan, that's the way I go about it, period. What do you think here, Alex? Carolina, Vancouver?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about that kind of in depth about how we just don't like that kind of display from the fans. You know, like I said, you boo and voice your displeasure, but just, some fans just taking it a bit too far with that. But with that being said, this is kind of that immovable force versus unstoppable force, rather immovable object kind of a move in the first period. You got Vancouver 6 of 6 in the first period overs. They're getting goals. They're giving up goals. It seems like the most energy they have is within the first 20 minutes of play. And then, like I said, they tail off in the last 40. So a great live play team for sure if they can keep that pace up. Carolina, 1 of 5 in the first period overs. They're a team that, is emphasizing the defense, getting good goaltending, both goalies playing well and healthy as of right now. So I can't ask for more from them on the back end, but I think they could take advantage of that weak defense and spotty goaltending that Vancouver has. And I'm seeing a big discrepancy. I'm seeing some 2s around. I see a 2 as high as 149, a couple of 2s at 120, but then you shop around, you see BetMGM, arguably one of the best books for first period totals, 1.5 minus $1.40. I'm taking a shot with that for sure, because I think Vancouver, they need to play with more intensity in the first period. They need to try to establish dominance, get a lead, early and try to hold on to it. That's been the issue. They haven't had problems scoring in the first. It's been the second and third. So if they can just at least get the first period part right and continue to do that, they can try to work it. They have to kind of break it up into 3 mini games. It's like the All-Star game for Vancouver, the way they have to approach things right now. And Carolina, just do what they do. I think they're going to have chances in transition to score, and we're getting the 1.5 here. I think this is a really good price and a good combination. So I think we do see Carolina cash a rare first period over here. Along with Vancouver, get 1.5 at minus $1.40. My cutoff for 1.5 would be $1.50. Anything higher than that, go to 2 at one of those even prices. I said like around plus 120.
All right, there we go. Like in first period over, Alex here with Carolina, Vancouver. And as I've mentioned with the goal props, it goes without saying for Carolina that I'm always looking to bet Jarvis and Marty Necas. But keep an eye on someone. He's only getting 10 or 11 minutes of ice time. And he's playing on the fourth line usually. Stefan Nason, they're giving him power play time. And he's actually chipped in with, he's had 4 points in the last 3 games, all assists. But he's also had 5, 2, and 2 shots on goal.
Yeah.
You talk about a real bargain bin sleeper. No one's going to think about it for a second. Goal scorer prop or point prop. Steph Nason here for the Carolina Hurricanes has actually been very good in the American Hockey League. It's where he's played most of his hockey the last year or two, but he's played well down there. They gave him a look now with the big club, and he's making the most of it. He's not playing a ton of minutes, but he's producing right now for Carolina.
No. Yeah, that's a great look. And somebody who I watched all last year with the Wolves had 37 goals in the regular season. Chipped in another 9 goals and 16 assists in the great playoff run. He's definitely a guy I think could easily move up out of that fourth line spot if he gets some good looks. And definitely, like I said, he's a quality guy in the power play. So definitely somebody you want to look at as a bargain bin value guy for goals for Carolina.
Absolutely. Good stuff indeed. Thomas, 8-4 is pretty solid. I'd still like my best bet record to be better than that on the show, but 8-4 is a good start. I'll definitely take it. See if we can improve on that tonight here on the Ice Guys show. All right, that's a wrap. We will give our best bets to wrap up the show in just a second. A reminder, we got a huge, massive Tuesday on deck tomorrow on the Ice Guys show. We've got our daily show at 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll have Jay Rosehill, former NHLer, on the show. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll break down all 10 games on the card. And we've also got a little Patreon bonus exclusive segment planned with our guest tomorrow, Jay Rosehill, as well, regarding fighting past and present in the National Hockey League. So that will be a lot of fun. And, of course, I know what also will be a lot of fun, our live betcast tomorrow night, the first of the season, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go as long as we feel like it. As long as there's people tuning in and showing up, we'll go for at least the early games, maybe the first part of the late games. We'll probably cut it off before the end of the late games. I'd say maybe a period of the late games, and then we might call it a night, depending on how it goes. But we'll definitely get through all the early games. We'll get through the big matchup on ESPN tomorrow night. Another one that's going to be probably hyped is a Stanley Cup preview, potentially Colorado and the New York Rangers tomorrow night on ESPN. So it's a pretty good Tuesday card. Looking forward to it tomorrow. And that first betcast of the year, DM me, DM Alex on Twitter at Bobano, at AX Smith Sports. If you want to join us, and we'll make sure you that we send you the link for the betcast before it starts. And also follow the Ice Guys Twitter at @_Ice Guys. I'm noticing we're closing in on 3,000 followers there on Twitter. We've had a nice little spike in followers for our Ice Guys Show Twitter account. So we like to see that. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at @_Ice Guys if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned with the Patreon page, patreon.com/Ice Guys. I already put my list for the top 5 fighters right now in the NHL. You can read that, and that will be part of the discussion we have. That's Patreon exclusive. Ian and I will be talking with Jay Rosehill about the evolution of fighting and how the enforcer role has kind of changed over a little bit. So you can get a early read on that now, and then wait for that video to drop. It'll be sometime this week. But we will be, like I said, super busy with that. The live betting as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I will actually repost my article. I've posted it in there before, I think maybe a year and a half ago, but I will repost the article about my tips for live betting in the NHL, because I know there's a lot of new viewers, and maybe some of you are watching this and you've been betting on games before but haven't done any live wagering and so forth, and kind of want a little primer before the betcast tomorrow. So I will have that posted in there sometime tonight or early tomorrow. Just some kind of overview of notes and general tips to use when betting live in the NHL.
There we go. Great tips, great advice right there from Alex. No question about that. Hopefully we've got some great advice right now with best bets for Monday night. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
I really love that Carolina-Vancouver game, but my best bet tonight is going to be the New Jersey Devils. I just like the form that they're in right now compared to the first couple of games of the year, and I think they have that youth and speed and intensity that they can use to kind of overmatch this slow and old Washington team. And like I said, they're a mess right now. As the late Brian Blessing would say, a dog's breakfast. The way to describe the Caps for sure. So I'm going to go with the New Jersey Devils. Even at the little higher price of a -30, we'll go best bet with the Devils.
All right. New Jersey Devils there for Alex P. Smith, -130. Best bet for him. My best bet is going to be a little oil country for me tonight. Edmonton, -120 against Pittsburgh. I think it's a nice situational bet here. I mean, people are ready to throw Edmonton in the garbage can. They've not had a great homestand. They're 2-3. This is the last game of that homestand. They win this, they're 3-3. It's not the end of the world. They lose this, they're 2-4, and they got to go on a long road trip after this. I think you get the best of the Edmonton Oilers tonight. And as much as I've been impressed with Pittsburgh's 4-0-1 start, again, I'll repeat it. Arizona at home, no big deal. Tampa Bay at home, but Tampa Bay was on a back-to-back on the road when you beat them. Then you lost to Montreal. Then you played LA. Again, LA on a back-to-back on the road when you played them. Columbus, been inconsistent, erratic this year. This is going to be a tough challenge for the Penguins. Even though they're 4-0-1, I think Edmonton brings their best, and it's enough to bounce back and get back in the win column, much like the spot they had against Carolina last week at home. They were off a home loss against a good hockey team, and they got the win there. I think they will here as well. Edmonton -120 against Pittsburgh for my best bet here for this Monday NHL card. Honorable mention to Dallas, Ottawa over the total. I almost used that for best bet as well. Great stuff. That'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate that very much. That'll wrap things up. And again, a big day tomorrow. Daily show at 2 p.m. Eastern with Jay Rosehill, and then the Betcast, 7 p.m. Eastern time. First one of the season. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow for a big Tuesday right here on the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.